It's now time for the news. Let's start in education. Now, 30 final year female students of the AHMADIYYA Senior High School have been displaced as a result of fire that gutted their dormitory over the weekend. Now, though there were no fatalities, the students lost all their valuables, including uniforms, mattresses, books, and other personal effects. The students returned to school a week ago to prepare for their final examinations. Rafiq Salam reports that this is the 5th fire incident to have gutted a senior high school in the region, and all of them being the dormitories for girls.
Teary-eyed, downhearted, confused, and completely dejected, final year female students of one unique AHMADIYYA Senior High School count their losses.
Now that we are just sitting, we are confused. We don't have books. Nothing is there for us to read. And 11 with 5 weeks for us. 1 week is gone, leaving 5 weeks. And I think today too is the start of another week. So now that we are starting, no uniforms, no books, what are we going to read?
Their dormitory was gutted by fire late Saturday evening, burning beyond recognition all valuable assets and personal effects of 30 of them.
What they are wearing presently is what they have. Their books and other personal belongings are all engulfed by the fire. So we had to make an immediate measure to evacuate them to the dining hall where they passed the night. And as you came this morning, we are reassessing the the southern wing to see if we can put it in shape for them to stay. Because of the COVID-19, they were staying 8 or 10 to a room. But now, because the northern wing is out of occupation, we are trying to reassess to see how we can adjust and let them be in campus for the 6 weeks and prepare them towards the examination.
House 5 prefect of the school, Abubakar Zulfau, was sleeping at the dormitory when the fire started.
I was just lying down inside the room when I heard people shouting. So in this school too, when water is flowing, they are always shouting. So we thought that it was the water that was flowing and they were just making noise like that. It was a friend of ours who was standing over there. So the fellow shouted that those in the rooms, you please come out. So when we came out, the fire was already at the veranda, so we couldn't pass through that place. So we passed through here, this side. We passed through the zinc up to that side, so we passed through there down, and all our properties got burned.
Personnel of the Ghana National Fire Service were called to the scene to help douse off the fire. Within 8 minutes, they were at the scene, but their attempt to douse off the fire was impeded by the height of the building. They, however, managed to quench off the fire after 1.5 hours. Deputy Post Regional Commander of the Ghana National Fire Service, DO2 Eugene Asajeti, said they have already started investigation to ascertain the cause of the fire.
Now we have been able to identify some cohorts. The fan regulators too are totally bent off. So we want to critically look at it for us not to make mistakes. Now what we are doing now, per the presence of the cohort and the civils and others, we have not right now apportioned the blame to it, but we are on it critically. We want to come out with an authentic report.
APAWA's Regional Director of the National Disaster Management Organization, Ahmed Mustafa, also joined personnel of the organization to assess the extent of damage and to mark out the areas they will need support.
We are just looking at the safety of the students. Where is it that we can allocate to them temporarily for them to stay? We will check those that don't have mattresses, those that don't have buckets. That's what we are looking at to make sure that their safety on campus till they write their exams is what we are looking at.
There's one thing unique about all the fires that got the schools here in the Upper West region beginning from January. All of them are girls' dormitories and all took place at the North Wing of the various dormitories. Is it by coincidence or there's some defects in the constructions of those buildings? Reporting for Joy News, Rafiq Salam. Wow.
We'll take you to the courts, but also remain in the region, where supervising Wa High Court Judge Justice Kwesi Boakye has expressed worry over the rush by witnesses to give information to the media than the courts. He says the courts need evidence to enable them not only speed up trials, but also deliver quality and unbiased judgment. Justice Boakye made the statement at the ordinary meeting of the Upper West Regional House of Chiefs in Wa. Rafiq Salam once again.
Justice Kwesi Boakye, before making a brief remark on challenges faced by the security agencies and the courts in justice delivery, first swore two new paramount chiefs as members of the Upper West Regional House of Chiefs. They are paramount chiefs of Sing and Poloma traditional areas, namely Naisaku Mahama and Koro Osman Nankpa III.
Do in the name of Almighty God. Swear that I will not.
Justice Kwesi Boakye commended the Upper West Regional House of Chiefs for the crucial role it is playing in the adjudication of justice in the region, urging them to continue to support the judiciary and the law enforcement agencies to do their work. The supervising High Court judge then lamented about the difficulty in finding witnesses for cases before the courts.
We need your support. Very often when the cases come to court, we don't get witnesses. Meanwhile, the same people will be ready to offer information to the media. When you see them talking to the media, you need them in court where you want to use the evidence, they will not come. And what can I do as a judge? Very often when you discharge them, then all kinds of stories. I know that you have learned from this. Let us encourage the people. The rush that we give to offer information to the media, let's give the same amount of information to the security services, to the courts where we need them, so that we can use them to do the work. Otherwise, every day everybody will complain. There is no justice, there is no law. But let the law catch up with you, and that is where you see where power lies.
President of the Upper West Regional House of Chiefs, Koro Richard Babine Kantong, admonished members of political parties to desist from making utterances that are likely going to trigger violence in the 2020 polls.
Our further admonish all politicians to maintain the peace the country is currently enjoying and help sustain it before, during, and after December 2020 polls. Let me also appeal to all leaders of political parties to desist from inflammatory utterances that could incite the population to violence in this era of COVID-19, where we even have nowhere to migrate to.
Upper West Regional Minister Dr. Hafiz Bin Sali, on his part, called on paramount chiefs to help fight the smuggling of government-subsidized fertilizer to neighboring countries.
Those unscrupulous people are members of your community. Please fish them out and report them to the security agencies for the law to take its course. Let us together make the smuggling of farm inputs an unattractive business venture for those involved.
Reporting for Joy News, Rafiq Salam. Wa.
Attention to some COVID-related news. And as the fight against the novel coronavirus pandemic continues, health facilities across Ghana continue to face several challenges. And this is in regards to the availability of personal protective equipment, and also with Joy News campaign in support of frontline workers. The Techimine Catholic Priest Association, they have donated items worth over 12,000 Ghana cedis to 3 health facilities within the Bono East region just to support their efforts to provide health care to the people. Joy News and Asabit is more in this report.
With Ghana's COVID-19 cases increasing in an astronomical manner, health facilities and health workers continue to be at a higher risk of acquiring the virus, and with Joy News campaign in support of these frontliners, the Techiman Diocesan Priest Association has donated personal protective equipment worth over 12,000 Ghana cedis to 3 health facilities within the Bono East region.
First of all, we were influenced by an advert from Joy News helping the frontliners. So the Priest Association has realized that people have been doing donations, but the donations usually either go to the patients or the vulnerable in the society. We have also realized that the nurses and doctors are also vulnerable. So the donation we wanted to do, or we are doing now, we want it to go to the nurses, midwives, and doctors at our various health facilities.
Reverend Martin Odru Wilson, who handed over the items to these institutions, indicated that his outfit is increasing its sensitization campaigns among priests, as well as drill more boreholes to provide water to needy communities in support of the COVID-19 fight.
We have been going to the various stations. When we say stations, we're talking about parishes, educating our priests, because if one priest gets the virus, the possibility of getting other people acquiring it is very high, because priest comes in contact with other people. And so the protocols, staying at home at first, now he's saying stay alert. So the association, together with our bishop, has been drilling boreholes in the various communities, because this time you need water. They are saying go and wash your hands with water and so. And where is the water?
Receiving these items on behalf of the health institutions, Mr. Francis Tewia, who is the director of the Techiman Diocesan Health Services, indicated that health institutions are currently in high need of these PPEs, adding that more of such donations are needed in this difficult period.
These are very critical commodities or consumables at this stage in time in the fight against the disease. And because they are consumables, they go away just as they come. And at this point in time, the health facilities really need these things.
Bishop Dominic Yeboah Nyako, Bishop of Catholic Diocese of Techiman, expressed gratitude to this group, adding that the items would be of great help to the fight against COVID-19.
We are very much grateful to the Diocesan Priest Association for donating these items to the health workers and the various clinics and the various health facilities. The health facilities have been using their own money to service all these things, and they have almost exhausted all their money. And giving these things out, it will have a very good way to support them.
Reporting for Joy News, Anas Sabit, Techiman.
We'll take you to Zambia, but also speak to related issues of foreign affairs, because Ghana has commissioned a new chancery building in Lusaka, Zambia, after its completion and handing over back in 2019. Now, the refurbished building forms part of government initiative to improve infrastructure for its missions abroad. At least 5 government-owned properties in Lusaka have been earmarked as part of the facelift. Foreign Affairs Minister Shelia Yokobuchi says this is aimed at enhancing diplomatic engagement while also addressing issues with cost and other challenges encountered while running these missions.
It may be noted that handing over of the refurbished Chancery building and the residence of the head of Chancery by the contractor and consulting architect was done on the 30th of September 2019. The project involved the conversion of an existing facility into the Chancery building with funding from the Société Générale Credit Facility. It is worthy of note that whilst the government of Ghana has vigorously pursued a policy of acquiring property abroad for use by our diplomatic missions since independence, there remains a huge gap to be filled, owing to the increasing number of staff in our missions, as well as the widening scope of our diplomatic engagements. Undoubtedly, the facilities made available to our missions are critical to their effective and efficient diplomatic engagements, which in turn has direct bearing on the overall productivity of the Ghanaian economy and its development. It is also a fact that government-owned properties abroad help in reducing the cost and associated challenges of running our missions. Our Lusaka mission has at least 5 government-owned properties which have either undergone refurbishment or have been earmarked for a facelift. I urge the mission to continue to maintain these facilities as their national assets. It's not only an important milestone for Ghana-Zambia relations, it also signifies our determination to further strengthen the long-standing cordial relations between our two countries.
I said there are a number of news we have this morning, but we do have a lot more news as we look at what is occupying the front pages of the various newspapers we have in the studio. Make sure you stick and stay. Related things that we have to talk about. We also have to know that there are a lot of things that God has done for us, and so we have to be grateful. Yeah, it's always gratitude that becomes a watching word when we're saying our daily meditative prayers. I have to say, Mama V is here. Mama V, good morning to you.
Hi, good morning, Roland. Yeah. How are you?
Good
weekend.
Yeah,
we
great
were
weekend.
in Holt together over the weekend.
We're in Holt, the Volta Regional Capital. And you know, coincidentally too, we had all these concerns and the wave of many natives, but also people of like minds who thought that the deployment of security along some of the border posts and even on the road, I think the main stretch, I got some of the hints subsequently that they had been deployed for some untoward reasons, they said. But, yeah.
I just want to share the beauty of Ho. That was my first time in Ho.
Okay.
Never been to Ho.
So which hotel did
incredibly, I'm talking about the town.
Okay.
I'm not talking about the hotel.
The town means that you should have some good hospitality place. So I'm just asking.
Oh, I'm not complaining. It was amazing.
Right.
My experience was fantastic. But I love Ho.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Great.
Every bit of it.
Well, I have to say that the management of Sky Plus Hotel, thank you for some of the warm reception you give me all the time when I'm in Ho. And then also, I have to say, Mr. Andrews Adugu and your wife, Dinah, I enjoyed the banku and the Bobby Taddy.
I didn't get the opportunity. I didn't get the opportunity
Good morning to all of you. You are a lawyer. You work with the Attorney General's Department.
But I will go back to Ho. Definitely will go back to Ho. It's an incredible place. So good morning to... All right, let's set up for the newspapers. No, I will.
I wish that we had train services so that I'll live outside Accra.
But Ho is amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, I was just... I don't think I had any expectations, and I didn't even know... I guess from... What's the town before Ho?
Sokode.
No, then before that.
Oh,
where the mountains are, where you could see...
Madam, you don't know. I'm telling you the town before Ho.
No, I'm saying that, no, not that place, but there's another one before where you just mentioned.
Peje or Peve?
No, not Peje. No.
Peje.
Yeah?
Oh, where?
I'll try and... I took some videos, by the way.
All right.
If people are interested, I'll probably share with them. But I was just the scenery. Oh my God.
Yeah, I think it's what you find in Peru and some of
exactly, and I didn't think that was. I couldn't imagine that was.
You should visit Amejofe, and then we have Afajatu.
I could live there forever.
I think so. The way you are.
Yeah.
You finish work, you go and stay in your house.
Masa, just admire nature. Yeah. All right. Let's do the newspaper.
Yeah. We have Joseph Akabli joining us.
Okay. All right. So, Hope people, take care of your town. It's incredible. It's amazing. Love it. Yeah. Joseph Akabli. Can you hear me? All right. Great. So I'm doing the Daily Graphic newspaper. Joseph would, yes, I heard that. Joseph would do the Daily Guide, the BNFT. I'm going to do the Daily Graphic and the Ghanaian Times and the Finder as well. So quickly, the Daily Graphic newspaper front page. President extends incentive package for health workers. They won't pay income tax for next 3 months. ANAS exposes COVID-19 scam. And the COVID-19 update as of June 27, cases 17,351, recovered discharged 12,994, deaths 112. But the banner headline, acclamation of MPP flag bearer Kufuor Bawumia ticket for election 2020. Also, Electoral Commission 2020 voters registration exercise movement plan, phase 1 in pages 56 and 59. The Daily Graphic. And the center spread, promote achievements of universities. UG Vice Chancellor urges media. GES trained school hurts others in COVID-19 as GHS finalists resume academic work today. EU donates to Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority towards COVID-19 fight. On the back page, President inaugurates Suhum Overpass. A Northern Development Authority undertakes 2,151 projects. On to the Ghanaian Times now, front page. As EC begins voter registration exercise tomorrow, President rallies all to register to vote in 2020 elections. Heavy military presence in Ketu South is to enforce border closure, according to the Volta Regional Minister. Minority MPs demand withdrawal of military deployment to Ghana-Togo border town. First African female elected onto ICC board. Back page ensures speedy delivery of projects. Roads and Highways Minister, that's attributed to him. And the Ministry of Food and Agriculture trains 30 on grafting of cashew seedlings. The other headline on the back page of the paper. The last paper, I guess, maybe not, the Finder newspaper front page. Proclaim our good works. President charges NPP faithful 33,367 centers to register 16 million voters, and that has to do with the voter registration exercise. I'm humbled to be selected for the 4th time as running mates. That's according to Vice President Dr. Bawumia. And on COVID-19, Ghana confirms 9 more deaths. Roland?
Well, so
Joseph?
I wanted to go to Joseph, but let me just do... Joseph, are you ready? Okay, so let me do the dispatch while we get Joseph ready. The front page of the dispatch has a story. 4% of Ghanaians vote on ethnic basis. We also do have the breakdown regionally, continuing on page 2 and page 11 on the dispatch. Of all the major ethnic groups, the Greater Accra region has 18% Gans, 17.9% others, and then also we have Fantis, 10.6%, Dangbe, 10.3%, and it's expected because it's a coastal city, so you have all the coastal communities also. But page 2 gives you a vivid description of what it is. And this is to pair the 2000 population and housing census, giving the statistics of percentages of various ethnic groups as following. So we have Ashantis being 14% of the voter population across the 10 regions at the time. Now 16 regions. We do have the others 12%, the Fantis are 9%, we have Bono including Banda 4%, and subsequently you'll find all in the dispatch. John Mahama's response to the Supreme Court on voters register. It was a live event that we also carried here on Joy News. Yeah. Now let's also look at the Custodian newspaper. The Custodian newspaper has on the front page a number of stories carried, and it's a I'll say public announcement, and they're doing this on behalf of the Electoral Commission. I guess on our behalf, literally, because we need this to enable people get the right sort of information and then troop to the centers to get themselves registered. Okay, so they're telling you the citizenship criteria. If you're 18 years and above, you're of sound mind. If you're having some difficulties mentally, get it straightened up. You can easily go. Be a resident or ordinary resident in an electoral area, not to be prohibited from registering by any law in force. Yeah, definitely. So you need to know these. Other stories on the front page of the Custodian newspaper. I will do Muhammad, good morning to you, the managing editor. MPP endorses winning team for 2020, and this also we brought you live. We had Kwesi Parker Wilson. We also had Latif on board. It was a great ceremony. The president, again, taking along him to be on the ballot or the poster, so to speak, even though he alone will be on the EC poster. Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, who has been his running mate for a number of years, since 2008. Yeah, what great loyalty and dedication. There was the other side, concerns about, not respecting protocols, social distancing, because they were not wearing masks at some point in time in the event. But notably, that it was a good event. I watched it. EC begins voter registration exercise tomorrow. That's Tuesday. Akufo-Addo meets defeated MPP MPs. So if you have a problem that you were defeated, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, the president said, don't worry.
You just get over it.
Okay, he says get over it.
Okay.
Again, you win some, you lose some.
Okay, I don't know if that's exactly his words.
Oh no, we're paraphrasing. I've absolved you of any blame game. So let me see which one I can do next. I'm torn between the Ghost Street Business and the Economic Times. But Joseph, are you ready? Joseph?
I'm ready, Roland.
Okay, please do the two you have, Daily Guide and the Business and Financial Times.
So the front page of the Daily Guide first, it has that story from the NPP event over the weekend. It says, NPP ready for 2020, Nana Bawumia Jap Mahama. And President opens Suhum overpass also on the front page. EC registration centers pull out. You can see the details in the inside pages. And I will help Nana get re-elected also on the front page. And NBC threatens UHAS VC. And that story is on page 6 of the Daily Guide. We can look at the BNFT now, the front page. It has this story about digitalization offers brighter future for banks amid pandemic. From Heritage Fund, if necessary, that is coming from the youth. And Ghana makes history at ICC also on the front page. And data must COVID-19 work rationalization decisions. That is also on the front page of the Business and Financial Times, Roland.
Well, we have to mainstream. Go straight away to look at the issues. Mama VNA,
I'll just quickly run through the daily searchlights, the Ghanaian Observer and the Daily Statesman. So the Daily Searchlight, government spent 20.14 billion Ghana cedis in executing key campaign promises. Our achievements are solid. Let the people know. Nanado charges NPP faithfuls. Ekufuado commissions Suhum interchange. NDC wants a comeback to frustrate Ghanaians with super incompetence, according to Dr. Bawumia. The Daily Statesman front page, well, pretty much I think the stories are similar. Bawumia pledges total support to Ekufuado. Let's go for decisive victory on December 7. Ekufuado tasks MPP after acclamation as flag bearer. More goodies for health workers as government extends COVID-19 incentives for 3 months. Roland, you were asking if there was... So I wanted to take the Ghanaian Times newspaper. The Volta Regional Minister has been doing some explanation on the military deployment to the Ghana-Togo border town. I thought would highlight a bit on that. It's on page 11 in the Ghanaian Times newspaper. All right, so here we go. Story says, the Volta Regional Minister, Dr. Archibald Yao Lecha, has explained that a heavy presence of armed personnel of the military and other security agencies in the Ketu South municipality is meant to enforce the closure of border. According to him, the number of personnel of the Ghana Immigration Service at the borders was now inadequate to enforce the closure effectively, for which reason other security agencies were assisting to enforce the closure. Dr. Lecha said this at a press conference in Ho on Friday to react to public concerns over the trend, stressing that since the closure of the frontier a few months ago to prevent the spread of COVID-19, some lawless people still crossed in and out of Ghana with impunity using unapproved routes. But you know, those who will not buy it will definitely not buy it. Is it a coincidence that this is happening just as we're going to start the registration of of voters for compiling a new voters register? Well, that seemed to be, if you like, what people are insinuating, what people are thinking. So they're trying to avoid people from crossing the border and coming down to register in Ghana. But we've also had the debate about who determines who is a Ghanaian. It's not a military man or an immigration officer who determines the nationality of any person, particularly the military. They don't have the capacity to do that. But we'll see. That's the explanation from the Volta Regional Minister. Yeah?
Well, we know that the reality of the situation is that the people, because of the seemingly, whether it's blurry lines between the two countries, who live on opposite sides of the border, they live their life on opposite sides of the border. So it becomes quite a thorny issue when you intensify or deploy more personnel than usual. it was a situation a month or two ago, and that's the main concern. Well, Joseph, any pick you want to look at, or you also want to make commentary on?
I think the Volta region story, I mean, what is actually raising issues is that interview or press conference, if I'm to put it that way, that Katie Amon spoke to. And it's been the main bone of contention. I've heard from the Interior Minister as well. I think our security agencies, in their quest to enforce the law and protect our interests and everything, I mean, they should be mindful of the political space we operate in, so that such actions are taken in a manner that does not create the wrong impression. Because it was after the news had gone out that we got the explanation that we got later on. And so people will say that, okay, that's an afterthought, you're not coming to do this and that. And so, I mean, I think it's a lesson that they should learn. And I agree with Mamavi's point about the fact that being a Ghanaian is not something that can be determined simply by the fact that you live in the Volta region, or that we say that, okay, you're not Ghanaian because you're crossing the border and coming in. There are people who live in various parts of the world who are all Ghanaians. So it doesn't matter whether someone is outside and is coming into it or not. And that is what we shouldn't leave in the hands of security agents to try and prevent people, else we end up having a very chaotic situation in that part of the country.
While we're having all this diplomatic talk, we all do know that we had the lockdown starting in the middle of March. And since then, it depends on who you are. You could travel. And I did do some travel within the period. And so I'll say from March, I've been to the Volta region a number of times, at least 2 times. Yesterday was a 3rd time. And there were no barricades at Sogakope, for example. You would not be asked to maybe show a number of your identities, etc.
If you're crossing to where?
If you're going through, because there's a barricade currently at Sogakope that I got reports from
where the customs people are stationed?
Yes, just closer to that point in time. And usually they would not stop you and try to do, they will just do the normal routine, because when you drive through, then it's a normal routine. So when you intensify that a week or 2 before a major exercise, then it begins to raise eyebrows about what really is the intention. Nobody is saying that you shouldn't do what you have to do. But if it's closer to a very sensitive period, when we do know that there is likely to be the muddying of the waters, either by political statements or also taking advantage of the situation by political actors, then it means that the explanations after, when concerns had been raised by citizens of the area, would not be taken on the face level. And that is a key concern for everybody else. And we do have many border towns across Ghana.
Is the situation the same? Are they beefing security everywhere?
And I've asked a number of people too, who are either my friends who work in the immigration service, and they said, no, it was not the situation at the time. So the government's commentary and official position may come in handy, but then what is on the ground based on the information that we get also does not speak to the same level, even though the explanation is that it's COVID. So I don't know.
If it's COVID, we have a lot of border towns, and we expect that same level of security everywhere if this is strictly COVID.
Yeah, because for me, the concern is that if, let's say you have a group of people in communities who are supposed to register, and you ask them to go through barricades and things, they will just say, look, I'm getting frustrated, so I may not go and register. That's the whole point.
So,
so that's why people are saying that maybe
intimidating and frustrating to
because if you put frustration on my way, for example, it's like bureaucracy. You want to go and buy or get a passport, and they put a lot of bureaucracy.
And if you recall, during the Ayawa So West Wagon Commission's hearing, I mean, the commission made that point about the fact that the election process is such that you shouldn't have armed men carrying guns in an intimidating manner that would deter people from even wanting to go and vote. And so that issue came up strongly. And so intimidation is a real issue when people feel that, I mean, when they walk to the police stations to register, they may be threatened or may be turned away with violence and stuff. They want to stay away.
Exactly.
But then again, on the registration itself, I mean, you know, there's a pending case that's will be coming up this morning.
The Bamba versus...
Yes.
This is the Ernest Nogbe case. So yes, I see that you've been speaking to the lawyer on this, and he's insisting that CI 91 has not been revoked. And so if the exercise goes ahead, it means we'll have CI 126 and 91 all effective.
Exactly. And so he says that I mean, unless the CI 91 is revoked, because it says if you look at CI 126, it doesn't say anything about the fact that the EC intends to compile a register direct. It only comes to amend the registration requirements under CI 91. And so his point is that CI 91 is still in force, and until it's revoked, you cannot use the CI 126 as basis for compilation of a new register. And so some say it's an academic endeavor, but we'll be looking for it at the Adenta High Court this morning as you'll be pushing for an injunction. And I mean, the expectation is that the AEC is to oppose that particular application. The AG is not a party to this particular case, by the way, so we'll be following that one this morning to see how it turns out.
But the Deputy AG said something to you with regards to this matter today.
Yes, his point was that the Supreme Court, in its final order, had stated that their decision applies to similar or same cases. And so, as far as he's concerned, he expects that the decision will be brought to the attention of the judge, and the judge will have no option than to dismiss this particular case. But Dr. Bamba's point of view is that his case is not same or similar to the Supreme Court one, in that one asks the Supreme Court to interpret whether the AC has the power to compile a new register and whether or not it is right that they are excluding certain forms of identification. His point is they are going for statutory interpretation from the High Court enforcement, saying that CI 126 does not allow the compilation of a new register. And so he hopes that the court will agree with him. But all those are matters that will be argued out this morning.
Well, we'll wait to see. In the meantime, we're all set to begin the exercise on Tuesday, and so we know the president will be speaking ahead of the exercise. His communications director says we will know the exact time the president will be speaking on matters relating to the voter registration sometime today.
Oh, yeah. Definitely. Oh, we'll bring you up to speed with the latest today. We'll have some great interactions right here. We'll look at how schools are reopening at basic level, junior high schools, and then we also have a conversation with the Minister for Information. Look, all these that we said are commentary. So we'll put these questions to him and see what he says formally to be the response of government. Mama V.
We have a minute to do myjoyonline.com, or we take a breather and we'll bring you sports. Lots of action over the weekend. Benedict will be joining us, but let's do myjoyonline.com, Roland.
Main story on the homepage. Stop EC from compiling new voters register. Abdul Basit Bamba to High Court. And Joseph Akable is giving us a story as well. Kufuor extends incentive package for health workers to September. Additional 3 months. That's a good one. I told all health workers close to me yesterday. They were not listening. So I said, look, child, this is the reality. You're getting more money. Even though they seem to have some concerns about those who have been categorized as frontline workers and non-frontline workers. So some may not get full. Mahama also condemns shameless abuse of state power over military siege of Volta, other regions. Kufuor to address nation on voters registration exercise. Volta region MP stormed Ketu South over military intimidation. And deployment of military to Volta, OT regions, creates suspicion. That's coming from former President Rawlings. And then over 120 students from Adiembra Senior High School allegedly sacked for breaching COVID-19 protocols. Yeah, it's the way we tend to apply the law, the regulation that become a concern. So in some spheres, immediately we have some of these regulations in place, implemented and sometimes not implemented in some regard. Kofi Abochi appeals to Supreme Court justices to strive to change public perception of its political bias. And your selective enforcement of the law is detrimental to national unity. Apak to Kufuor, just what I was saying, in terms of how the law is implemented related to COVID. And in that statement he issued, he talked about the church leaders initially who were arrested and what has happened to current actions of political parties convening, particularly the NPP that had recent events, and it looks like the law is not implemented adequately. All right, so we have some sports stories. Mamavi had been monitoring while he was in Ho, all the sports pages. So I make some cry and I said,
listen, when you find yourself in Ho, you just relax and enjoy Ho.
So you decided not. So you are not monitoring.
That's why Benedict.
So you are disgracing me this one.
That's why Benedict will join us. Well, I got updated with Real Madrid. And then Manchester City is playing Arsenal in the FA Cup, right?
And Chelsea is playing Manchester United.
Yeah, United.
I don't know, because you know that we'll win, so.
Well, whatever.
I know.
Do you want to put some cash on it?
The thing is that when your season is gone bad, you accept whatever.
Do you want to put some cash on it?
I'm saying that the point is, when your season has gone bad, you accept whatever.
What you're saying is just talk. Do you want to put money on it?
We're taking a break. I know Joseph loves Barcelona, so doesn't like talking about England and this thing.
Joseph Akable, we'll wait for your reports from the courts. Joseph will keep us updated with what happens at the High Court today. I guess that's a place of interest because of the decision that they have to make today. And we've got the registration exercise, would it happen or not, based on this decision. But first, we'll bring you sports, and then we'll get down and discuss the reopening of the junior high schools. The final year students are going back to school today. How does it look like on the ground? All of that here on the show. Stay with us.
I assure all parents and guardians that government will not put the lives of 750,000 students, teachers, and non-teaching staff who will be returning to school from tomorrow at risk. We've made all the required provisions to protect them whilst in school. It bears repeating, however, that they must all adhere strictly to enhance personal hygiene and social distancing protocols, regularly wash their hands with soap under running water, refrain from shaking hands and hugging, and wear masks to protect themselves and others. Our survival, I repeat, is in our own hands, and together we can defeat this virus. And 2.2 million reusable face masks, i.e. 3 per person, all with the intent of guaranteeing the safety of the students, teaching and non-teaching staff. 2 masks each will be delivered tomorrow, and the third within the next 2 weeks. I've been very impressed by the adherence to the enhanced hygiene and social distancing protocols by authorities and students in our universities and other tertiary institutions and senior high schools. Yes, there have been a few hitches surrounding the reopening, but largely they have been smooth and seamless. In these institutions, the washing of hands under running water, the maintenance of social distancing, the refrain from shaking hands and hugging, and the wearing of masks have become a part of the routine of school lives. We're determined to ensure the same level of conformity in our junior high schools. So through the District Directors of Education and the District Directors of Health, a COVID-19 sensitization program will be organized for all head teachers and their teaching staff from Monday, the first day of school. This will ensure that the do's and don'ts of the protocols are clearly spelt out for the head teachers for onward transmission to the students. JHS 3 students will be in school for 11 weeks of preparation and revision before spending the following week to take the BECE. There will be no more than 30 students in a class, and there will be a reduced school day with students reporting to school at 9 a.m. and closing at 1 p.m. No breaks outside the classroom will be permitted. Assemblies and sporting events are banned, and the use by outsiders of school premises for religious and other activities will not be allowed.
For 11 weeks of preparation and revision before spending the following week to take the basic education certificate examination. We've got our colleague Maxwell Agbagba, who is at the Kotababi 3 JHS. and we want to monitor how first day, the reopening day, will be like. How is it looking even this morning, a little after 7:30, almost 7:30 right now on a Monday morning. This is a bit different, Roland, from the senior high schools where we know a lot of them are also boarders, but JHS largely, particularly with the government schools, are all private government schools. So let's get in touch with Maxwell Agbagba. Maxwell, I saw you a while ago. You are the Kotobabi 3 JHS. How is it looking this morning? Are students coming to school already?
Exactly, Mama V. Some of them have started reporting. About 3 of them right now walking to their various classrooms. And whilst driving here to the Kotobabi 3 Basic School, we saw quite a number, of students also walking by the side of the road, heading to their various schools. Sadly, though, quite a number of those we saw on their way to school were not, in their face masks. The 3 students that you just saw, all of them were not, actually not in their nose face mask. There's another one I've seen here sitting behind a motorbike who is also not, in a face mask. Quite a number of them we've seen by the side of the road are not in their face mask. We want to believe that when they get to school, then definitely the school authorities, will get them some of the face masks that government has promised will be distributed to them. We know that government says they'll be receiving 2 of this, those face masks when they report to school today. And then in the 3rd week also, they'll be getting the extra one, making 3 reusable face masks. So perhaps that could be the assurance for us now. We'll be waiting to see, what exactly, what will be happening. But up there right now, the offices have been opened. The classrooms have also been opened. We've seen quite a number of the students cleaning their classrooms, cleaning their storeroom. On the 1st floor, for instance, I see a Veronica bucket there. I saw some of the students washing their hands before they get into the classroom. One of the teachers I spoke to here told me that the school had been closed for many months now. So today, the first 2 hours, they came in very early, and the first 2 hours, it's supposed to clean the school before the final year students, report here. I want my camera technician to pan to these students. I've seen about 4 of them in their school uniforms. Happily, all of them are in their face mask. All the 4 that we are seeing right now are in their face masks, and they are reporting to campus for, preparations to begin for their final examinations. We are told they'll be spending about 11 weeks before the final examination. A lot of them are walking in here very happy. There was a gentleman I spoke to. He's a final year student preparing for the basic education certificate examination. He was telling me that he would have wished, that government would let them write the examinations maybe sometime later in the year. And he said that because schools were closed for many months, it was very difficult, for them to study. He said that online studies was even very difficult, at some point. So he thinks that 11 weeks is not really enough for them to revise and write the basic education certificate examination. So if you come here to the Kotobabi 3 Basic School, they've started cleaning the place. Preparations have started, and the students will be reporting to school. It's just some minutes or some hours, an hour to 9 o'clock a.m. and we'll be waiting patiently. We'll be visiting other schools also to see how these students are reporting. Okay, Maxwell, we'll let you do the round so we can get the reports. After all, school is supposed to begin at 9 a.m. It's interesting that you find students coming in even at 7:30 a.m. this morning. But the reason, I guess it makes sense to all of us, they're going to be doing general cleaning, seeing as they've been closed for quite some time. But we will also be looking at the classroom size. So Maxwell, do well to report on that for us, because we know that
they're not supposed to be more than 30 in the class. So that's also something that we're watching.
Exactly.
And I guess most importantly, what happens to those who are not wearing masks when they report to school?
Yeah, and we do know that, of course, we have to speak to the Ghana National Association of Students, Ghana National Association of Teachers. But before we do that, Mamavia, across board, the facilities for schooling is not the same at the basic level. So we're likely going to see the lack of spacing in some of the schools once we get outskirts of some of the main towns or cities we have in Ghana. But it also behoves on the school administrators to make sure that they do the best for the students as much as they can. I'm hoping that that promise of the provision of the marks will go through to all these schools across Ghana so that we'll have these facilities or the PPEs provided.
All right, so Maxwell is going to be visiting more of the schools and then he'll bring his report to us live. We'll also be going to Kumasi and then we would ask you to also join us. What's been your own observations, even as final year students in the junior high school go back to school? Let's engage the president of the Ghana National Association of Teachers, PHILIPPA LARSEN, who is joining us. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, thank you so much, ma'am, for your time.
My pleasure.
So, you know, just to go over some of the things that the president mentioned yesterday, schools will be active from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m., no breaks?
Yes, please.
Okay. Are you running shifts or you're occupying other classrooms? Because, of course, the entire school is accessible. So what's the plan? Are they going to be running shifts or this is 9 to 11 for all the schools?
Well, thank you very much. Let me use this opportunity to say good morning to your cherished viewers and say that we will not be running shifts, because the candidates almost always form about a third or a quarter of the total enrollment of the school. And so we are going to have enough spaces in the school. And so from 9 to 1 p.m. we'll be in school. We'll have break sessions, but during the break time, the students are not supposed to go out. They will sit in the classroom and enjoy a bit of break, after which normal classes will resume.
Okay. So typically, how many subjects will be taught in a day between 9 and 1?
We are planning to do about 3 or 4, maximum of 4. Because of the time, within 4 hours, we'll have to leave the school. And so we'll not be able to handle all the subjects because, you know, we are not in normal times. And so schools have planned timetables, and the Directorate of Education has even come out with a timetable for all of us to follow. But in the meantime, once the schools are also on their own, you have to make sure that instructional hours are judiciously used. And so the various schools are going to look at that. And between 9 and 1 p.m., there is going to be enough or sufficient classes for the children.
Are you satisfied with a no break? Because if you're going to have 3, 4 lessons and the children are stuck in the classroom for the entire 4 hours, I was thinking it would require a bit of stretching, maybe not necessarily a long break, some intermittent breaks so that they can go outside and feel a bit of sunshine and fresh air and come back to the class.
Well, that should have been the norm, but you agree with me that we are not in normal times. And parents are expecting their wards to be well protected. And I believe that is why we are putting all these measures in place, so that teachers will be able to monitor their children, so that in maybe in the classroom setting, once we have a limited number of students, we make sure they don't get too close to and all that. Sure that teachers and students are protected.
What has been given to teachers so far?
For now, nothing yet. And in almost all the districts I spoke with yesterday, they received the items yesterday and probably will be doing the distribution this morning. And so that is what is going to happen this morning. We'll be going around to monitor what is happening in all the schools. But we are hoping that all the items will get to the school. We don't want to happen to the senior high schools to happen to us. On Friday, when I visited some of the few schools, there were lots of challenges. Some schools had received only one nose mask or face mask or whatever. And we wouldn't want those things that happen at the senior high school level to happen at the JHS level, to be honest with you.
What is a teacher entitled to?
A teacher is entitled to 3 face masks, and just as the students are also entitled to. Then the schools are entitled to Veronica buckets, tissue papers, liquid soaps, sanitizers, and all the items that have been mentioned by the president himself. And so these are the items that we are expecting.
So if distribution is now taking place, when do you expect that real lessons will be taught in the classroom? Because if you don't have, in the absence of the personal protective equipment, you can't reasonably go about your duty as a teacher.
That is the challenge, my sister. And even for today, I believe a lot of the schools will be doing education for their students. And so as and when the items are received, the teachers will have to take the children through how to use all the items that have been given. And so for today, I don't know when instructional hours or normal classes will begin. But normally, according to the president and the timetable, we are supposed to start lessons at 9. Meanwhile, the children are not even supposed to do any cleaning and all that. And so this morning, I believe all the schools will be looking at how to clean the compounds and how lessons are going to begin.
Our colleague Maxwell Agbagba, just before we connected to you, Madam, he's been reporting from the Kotobabi JHS, and we saw students sweeping. Are you telling us that students are not supposed to be cleaning the classrooms?
Well, that is the information we had, especially for the compound. And the compounds are so weedy and dirty because we had left school for a number of weeks. But we have information that the students are not supposed to do any cleaning. And unfortunately, at the junior high school level, we have no laborers or staff to do all that for us. And so we are going to see how we manage things at the school level. But I assure you that definitely we'll put our heads together and see how best to be able to clean the school by whatever means.
So I'm just wondering if we haven't, because we know disinfection exercise has gone on, but the general cleaning is necessary to make the place conducive for both the teachers and the students. And I'm thinking that the first week really would not be productive.
It will be productive depending on how fast we are able to clean the school, depending on how early we receive all our PPEs and all the rest of the items that we need to work with. Because to be honest with you, at the junior high school level, I know though parents are going to be supportive, majority of them will come without face masks. And without that, they will not be allowed entry into the schools.
So we've seen, not to cut you, sorry, we've seen that happen already with the school that I mentioned. We've seen students come in without the face mask.
Exactly. And so it means that until we receive our supplies, no serious work can start at the school level. But you see, my sister, unfortunately, on Friday, there was a press conference. And even at the senior high school level, mention has been made of the fact that all the students and staff have received their face masks, 3 each and all that. Meanwhile, that is not what is happening on the ground. And so whoever is supposed to do the supplies, maybe the president, His Excellency himself, will have to come in and make sure that things are done right. Otherwise, there will be chaos. This is a pilot thing we are doing that will inform His Excellency, the ministry, and the Ghana Education Service to see going forward whether to open school or not. And so if we do not receive the items now for a limited number of students, then what sort of confidence are both our parents going to have in the system? And so I pray that the items are supplied and on time. We should have even received them yesterday. But as I speak with you, well, I don't know if any school has received the items yet. I know if not all are going to receive their items this morning.
So typically what's supposed to happen, you would get the 3 at a go for each student, and you're expected to wear when you come into school. So if you don't have your mask on, what happens to you?
You will not be allowed entry into the school. That is as simple as that. And that should be the government supply. You understand that, like I've mentioned earlier, a lot of the parents, especially in every community, we have a junior high school, unlike senior high schools where they are adults on their own. But we have these schools in the various community levels. And how many of them can even afford? Because for some of them, they have not been going out. And so they didn't need any face mask or anything at all. Now that we are going to school and we have been assured, promised by His Excellency, that He's going to supply all these things, a lot of the children, I've said, and if not all of them, will be coming to school without a face mask. And once you have no face mask, all labels are showing that without a face mask, you cannot be allowed entry into the school. And so we'll see how things go. But anybody without a face mask will not be allowed entry. Yet, government is going to supply what He promised. And so we will wait to see exactly what is going to happen.
Sure. But what's the protocol if somebody shows symptoms of COVID-19?
Well, madam, I do not know the symptoms of COVID-19 myself. For now, all the things that we'll be doing is to test the temperature of the students. And let me also use this platform to say that the fact that a student or a teacher's temperature is high doesn't necessarily mean that the person is infected. All the schools have been mapped to health facilities, and we have had quarantine or isolation centers in our schools, because now we have a lot of spaces in the school. And so we are praying is anytime we see that a child or a teacher's temperature is high, it simply means the person is not too well, and then it will be reported to the appropriate facility so that the person will be catered for. But let me say again that it doesn't necessarily mean that the person is infected with COVID-19.
Okay, so the protocol is if the temperature is alarming, then you take either the teacher or the students to a health facility.
Yes, please.
Okay, yes. I thought maybe there was provision of a phone number, and in the meantime there is an isolation room where you keep the person until help comes in.
Yes, that is what I said. The schools will have isolation centers, and we'll have to inform the health facility about the fact that a student or a teacher is not well.
Okay.
And we'll pick it depending on what the health facility thinks appropriate to do. Either they visit the school facility or we send the person to the health facility.
Okay, great. Madam Philippa, my colleague Roland Walker is coming through also with some questions for you.
From my experience with interacting with teachers, but also the students, when we had the second cycle reopening, there was one thing that they said was missing. That's the keen or the important involvement of parents. How do you know parents have been involved in this reopening process?
Roland, there have been a lot of education on the fact that parents will have to prepare their wards, give them the best advice, make the necessary provision, and especially the assurance that their wards are going to be safe and protected. Now, at basic level, it is the same education that has gone on, and we believe that parents have given advice to their ward to obey all instructions in the school, so that together we stay safe. And so all hands are on deck, both teachers, parents are also major stakeholders. And so I believe that now that we are all aware that we are not in normal times, everybody would want his or her ward to stay safe and protected.
Now, when you get out of Accra or some of the main towns or city centers, you get to experience the depravity in education. So what is the constant collaboration you at the headquarters are having with the teachers, with their students and the parents in the most remote part of our country?
have been series of meetings, discussions. For parents are also major stakeholders in education. And so in all our discussions in making education the best various levels, especially at the community levels, there have been discussions. And this is what we expect, that parents come in to support education. I know that some schools are doing very well, but though they are doing well, it's because you see some schools on the trees. We still have some schools where students sit about 2 or 3 sit on the mono desk. A mono desk is supposed to be for one person. Sometimes you see 5 people or 4 people sitting on one desk, and that's where we support even so that the school environment will be the best for the world able to stay.
We'll see how that goes.
Well, Madam Philippa, we'll have to let you go. We wish you well. I guess we will be coming to you. This is just day 1. So we'll come back towards the end of the week and see how the week went. And then where we can also help with some advocacy, we'll be happy to support. Thank you for your time this morning.
My pleasure.
Okay. And that's the president of the Ghana National Association of Teachers telling us from the teacher's perspective. Nana Senso is in Kumasi, St. Paul's RCJHS. Natalia is in Takrade, Danwell Methodist, Efiekuma in the Western region. The two of them will tell us the situation on the ground. Let me come to you, Nana Senso, first. What can you report?
Mama, we started our rounds this morning around 6 a.m. We began the monitoring from Iriso MA Basic at the Oporiko Municipal Assembly, and then we continued our journey to Amankwetia MA Basic within the Kumasi Metropolis. Over there are clusters of schools, so we continue our journey to New Amokom JHS, but currently we are here at St. Paul's RCJHS. But let me quickly add that all the schools that we visited, none of the students had reported at the time we got to the school. Maybe students are supposed to report at 9 a.m., so we'll give them the benefit of the doubt. But over here at St. Paul's RCJHS, there are some early birds. Although they are supposed to report at 9 a.m., some of the students came here exactly 6:30 when they got here. And speaking with them, they are saying that they feel itchy. They've stayed home during the COVID break for more than 2 months, and then some of them couldn't sleep yesterday night when they realized they're supposed to report to school today. So they came here very early in the morning. I want to engage some of the students and find out from them how the feeling has been. Come closer to me a bit. Shout for me. What is your name?
Please, my name is Obedana Kwame Apia.
Come closer. Yeah. Obedana Kwame Apia. You've been in the house for a long time. How was the feeling? Tell us.
Yeah, the feeling, I felt worried because of the COVID-19. Government closed all the schools, so we didn't go to school. But right now, we thank God Almighty that now schools is open. Okay. So now we are in school.
So tell me, amid the COVID-19, the virus, and then you're supposed to return to school. Are there some fear?
Yeah, I'm very scared.
Why are you scared?
Because it's very, very bad. Yeah, because coronavirus is very, very bad.
Okay, so he is saying that the COVID-19, although he misses school, the COVID-19 is also scaring him. He fears that he might contract the disease. But Mama, let me also quickly add that almost all the schools that we had visited, there are no safety measures. Talking of buckets, talking of sanitizers, talking of anything the school authorities had put in place. We haven't seen any of them. So we're hoping that from 9 a.m. going, maybe school authorities will start installing this kind of safety measures to ensure that students and teachers feel safe as they resume to school. I have another early bird here. What's your name? Queenly. You are here in school. Do you have your sanitizer with you? You don't have sanitizer with you. So how are you going to ensure that you don't contract the disease? Talk to me. So are you expecting the school to give you sanitizer?
Yeah.
Okay. So Mama B, this is one student. He's a final year student here. She just reported. She says her name is Queenly. but she doesn't have any sanitizer with her, and she's hoping that school authorities will give her sanitizer so that she will keep safe. So maybe this has been the situation over here in Kumasi. None of the schools are open over here. Even all the doors and windows are locked. The students are just standing and then hoping that teachers will resume early for them to start their normal classes over here in Kumasi.
Nana says, so did you also see cleaners cleaning the compound? Because we've been told that students are not supposed to be taking care of the cleaning.
Amavi, we went to New Amokum Basic. Over there, the compound was messy. All the dry leaves had dropped, and then the school was very unclean. So we are hoping that the janitors will come around and then they will start cleaning. And over here too, the school is unkept. Cleanliness is very low over here. So actually, you could see that they are not prepared for the students today. So we are hoping that going forward from tomorrow or from this afternoon going, the janitors and then the school authorities will, as much as possible, will do the needful to ensure that they clean up all the school premises to ensure that students are able to return to classes in a sanitary manner. Mamavi.
All right, Nana Senso, we'll leave you so you can do more checks for us, but at least the 2 students that you engaged, thankfully, they're all in their mask. Let's go to Natalia Kwanza, who is in Takrade, specifically at the Dunwell Methodist in Efiakuma. Natalia, what can you tell us? What have you observed?
So I've been to the new site, schools here, cluster of schools. I've also been to New Takrade cluster of schools, and then over there, the students haven't reported. All doors are locked. Here at Dunwell Methodist, about 6 students have reported to school. Mama, if I take you around, you would see that most of the places is locked. So this is the headmaster's office, and this place is locked. There are no sanitary like Veronica buckets and all that placed here. So especially some few students who have come around this morning, I saw some of them sweeping themselves. They are just sitting around. So in Takrade, basically from 6:30 when I started doing my rounds up to date, I've not seen, most of the schools have been locked, and then there are a few students who have come around because probably they stayed home for long. But here I have with me one student so we can interact with. Yes, so I want to find out from you, how has it been staying at home and all that?
For academics has really decreased due to this coronavirus pandemic. Now we are in school, we are urging the government to get us qualified teachers and make sure the teachers observe the protocols so that we, the students, will also observe the protocols, like providing us with Veronica buckets and soaps with tissues, sanitizers and the nose masks, because not all the students can afford to buy the nose masks. So I'm urging the government to get us nose masks with Veronica buckets, because the school, we have only one Veronica bucket around. And in a class, we have 53 students in a class. So we cannot afford one Veronica bucket for all the 53 students. And our teachers are not in, so we don't know either we are going or we are coming. But we are trying to tidy up the school so that when the teachers come, we can also do something to support them.
If you say qualified teachers, I mean, these are teachers who have been here over this year. So what do you mean by qualified teachers?
Like, we need much teachers in the school because some of our teachers want to leave the school, others do want to come in, but they don't have space to be in the school. So we need government. We are a private school students, but other schools, like the government schools, have the support of the government in providing them with teachers.
Okay, all right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Mama, so you heard from her, they need support from government in terms of PPE and then Veronica buckets, among others.
We will let you go as well so you can do more of the checks for us. I guess we have to wait till 9 a.m. And I got the sense from the student, Roland, the student that Natalia engaged, that it's not a directive from the school that you should clean, but it's just maybe a habit. They've come to school really early. There's no teacher in sight, but they are cleaning and waiting for their teachers, so they'll know the way forward. I believe
that based on our interaction with the Ghana National Association of Teachers president, they have not directly done the engagement with the PTAs and the teachers directly, because they're assuming that the public announcement and the public education will get to the ears of these students, their parents, and then the teachers. But I think that just like maybe that engagement was with the second cycle institution, we should have done that same with these people. And I do understand, because if you go to many of the related schools in communities, in public schools, the engagement is not like you have in senior high schools. The senior high schools have their PTAs very strong. They have the Old Boys Association also very strong. So that tends to have an impact on the way they are structured, the way they operate.
All right. Let's go to Rafiq Salam in Wa. Rafiq, where exactly in Wa are you?
I am exactly at the PHILIPPA cluster of schools, which also included Limari Model GHS. And I came here half an hour ago, and at the PHILIPPA cluster of schools, I can see close to about 5 dozen of students, some of them seated, and also some of them also doing cleaning. And so when you move to the Limari Model GHS, there are about 20 students who were present. And so I tried to speak to the students, and they told me that they were elated for coming to school again, and they hope that there wouldn't be any distraction so to enable them complete their school. And so they're really excited to be back. It's still more early, yet I'm told that the students are supposed to report at 9 o'clock. So some of them came ahead of time, and they are doing cleaning.
Rafiq, do you see in sights Veronica bucket, hand cleaning, soap buckets, you know, items for hand washing?
I have been through the cluster of schools right here. I haven't set my eyes on any of them. And I've also tried to speak to some of the students, and they told me that they are waiting for probably the headmasters to bring them along. But the information I'm having is that in the municipality here, they are yet to receive set for the schools.
And are these children also wearing face mask or face covering?
I can tell you that I can count as many as 40 students, and none of them were on face masks. And I asked them why. They told me that they were told that when they come to school, they will be given these face masks. And so majority of the students here are not really having face masks. But the way some of them seated, at least they respect this issue of social distancing, and which was very good from the side of the students.
So classrooms are closed because the heads haven't reported yet. So can you?
No, the classrooms are opened.
Okay.
And then students are there, and also some of them are seated, and then whilst the rest are doing their morning chores, like say doing cleaning, and then some doing some weeding around at the school. You know, because it's the rainy season here, some of the schools have outgrown weeds, and so they have to be cleared before normal classes.
So some of the students are weeding, you said?
Some of them are cleaning. They are cleaning their classroom because it's long that they have been to school. And so these classes needs to be cleaned.
Okay. And can you also finally tell us the arrangements of the desk?
The arrangements, I'm told that they are still waiting for the headmasters because none of the teachers here would like to speak to me on record, but they're saying that they are waiting for their headmasters. Probably they will come with these Veronica buckets and other essential items that they need for them to make the running of these schools effectively.
All right, Rafiq, 9 o'clock is just about an hour, so we will let you do more rounds, and then we will come back to you maybe later on News Desk. But let's go to Kwesi Deborah. He's at the KNUST Junior High School. Kwesi, good morning to you. Tell us what the experience has been in terms of student reporting to school. Hello, Kwesi Deborah, if you can hear me. I'm asking for you to tell us about student reporting to school. Okay, we don't have Kwesi Debra on stream for us, but Roland, I was just going to discuss with you. I'm worried that, where Rafiq Salam is reporting about 40 students, he said he's seen not wearing the mask. So they left home, came to school to get a mask. And once officials are not in school, they don't have these masks. And I'm worried because it's not that you get COVID, you're likely to get it only in school. I mean, the movements from where you were to your destination is also very important.
Because we said that the wearing of face masks, based on the education we have gotten from the health authorities, should be part of our daily livelihood. And it means that once you're getting out of Accra, Kumasi, even Kumasi we're flouting, in Accra we're flouting as well, it means you have less adaptation to some of these lifestyles that we needed.
Well, fortunately, we've got the Information Minister joining us for a conversation, so we'll put some of the issues that have come up across. But Golden Finger Industries Limited is a fast-growing manufacturing company processing fruits into quality organic cosmetic products, cleaning and disinfectant, produced right here in Ghana under certified FDA conditions. We have in stock GF hand sanitizer, GF rubbing alcohol, GF ghetto antiseptic, GF multi-purpose liquid soap, GF hand washing soap, GF antiseptic cleaner, GF multi-purpose glass cleaner, and we are located at Giselle Estate, SCC DVLA. You can contact them on 0546 274 070, 0546 270, and I'll take the number again, 0546 274 070 or 0546 273 993. The office number is 0302 957 950, 0302 957 950. When we come back, Roland Walker will be engaging the Information Minister, Kojo Ponkroma, right here. Stay with us.
Well, again, we're monitoring the situation of the reopening of schools. Basically, we're talking junior high schools, I have to say. Third years are reopening, and it's important that we also have to add that we need to get a lot of information ongoing. And that's why we've deployed our correspondents. But we also do know that the President, in his 13th address to the public, which of course we carried right here on Joy News, did emphasize the efforts that have been made, not only by the Ministry of Education, but in the entire COVID team, government in particular, to have a special focus on making sure that the children get back to the schools in time and continue with the needed academic work. And it's important that we have to put all these into perspective. We did tell you, we're going to have an interaction with the Minister for Information. And Kojo Ponkroma is also the Member of Parliament for Ofuanse Ayerebi. Good morning to you, Kojo Ponkroma, and thank you for joining us.
Roland, thank you for having me. Good morning to Mama V and the rest of your team.
You're great. And I know that you and the rest of the members of the team have been working so hard to make sure that the needed attention is given to the schools. But you say that the time is now opportune, and it's based on preparatory work. What sort of work extensively has been done alongside what the President announced in his speech on Sunday evening?
Roland, so first of all, we are doing this in a phased manner. The tertiary institutions, about 234 of them, went to school about 3 weeks ago. That's just for final year students who are going to complete the examination. And then you had the senior high school students, final year students, and the Gold Track students go back last week. The first part of the work is to monitor how these first two cohorts have fared on campus and how the protective layers that are required to ensure that lives are protected on campus serve its purpose. And I think the feedback, as the President mentioned, despite a few hitches, the feedback has generally been good. Now, we are at a point where the third cohort, which is made up of junior high school students and their teachers and non-teaching staff, numbering about 750,000, now have an opportunity also to go back to school to complete their academic work. And the kind of preparations you need to do for that are to ensure that, for example, when it comes to the Veronica buckets, soap, availability of water, when it comes to, most importantly, the wearing of the reusable face masks, there are enough of them out there to assist these students and teachers and non-teaching staff to protect themselves. The deployment exercise has already commenced. It's been led by a committee chaired by the Honorable Senior Minister. The Ghana Armed Forces is playing a key role in moving the logistics. And it's our expectation that as the students arrive in school from this morning, they will be given these masks. And that throughout this week, the orientation for teaching and non-teaching staff and the students also will take place so that we don't have any untoward incidents or unfortunate incidents on campus. That's a big objective that we are working on. We acknowledge that early days often come with a bit of difficulty, but these are not ordinary times, so we'll have to do our best to live up to it.
How are we relating what we're recording nationally based on the national figures for coronavirus with what the expectations on the preventive side is in relation to the reopening for these students?
Well, so when it comes to the reopening of the schools, as I mentioned, the key thing you want to do is to put in place a strong preventive mechanism and a strong screening mechanism, so that should you find any isolated incident, you can contain it there as quickly as possible. In terms of the general numbers of COVID-19 cases that are being recorded, or what we call the new cases that are being recorded, not even the cumulative number, because as I'm sure we've all now come to understand, the cumulative number, even if you had one extra tomorrow, it will go up. But in terms of the new cases, some attention has been paid to the sources of the new cases, where the new cases are coming from. And it is that which gave us the indication that a significant number of the new cases are concentrated in workplaces or in specific environments. These are spikes in specific environments. And that is why somewhere last week you saw us put out the guidelines for protection in the workplace. So we continue to make the point that people in workplaces or managers of workplaces must take a keen interest in ensuring that extra protection is provided there, because simple things like doorknobs, clock-in systems, stair rails, door handles are proving to be a major transmission point. So on that front as well, we have stepped up the guidelines and the education that is required to ensure that operators of these workplaces are aware and help to protect their people.
How important did government and the COVID team think the relationship should be, or the coordination should be, between the teachers or the management of the schools and the parents, knowing that in public schools, unlike private schools, the PTAs are not too strong and the communication always has a vacuum?
Well, let me even add another challenge to that. Because of COVID-19, you have several places where, even where the PTAs are strong, there are no PTA meetings that are taking place to ensure that there's some direct interaction. But you would have to start at some point. You have to start off by, first of all, allowing the kids to come back to school, getting, in particular, the teachers, the non-teaching staff, and the school authorities aligned on what they need to do, ensure that generally, parents are aware of their role in the scheme of things and also live up to their end of the bargain. And then as you move on, encourage interaction between parents and the schools using the kind of technology that they can afford, so that whatever feedback or guidance must be given to the schools or must be given to parents is able to then take place at the local level.
There's a considerable aspect of when the students are supposed to return in relation to when we're expecting to have the full phase in force in terms of the reopening for all pupils, and then the students at the top level too. What are the timelines we're looking at, sir?
What we have said so far, and the president has been quite clear, is that every step we take must be informed by learning from the global perspectives, learning even from the local context. And so we did not think it was prudent ab initio to open up all the schools, or even set ourselves a date for opening up all the schools for every cohort to be in it. What we saw was necessary to complete was a final year examination calendar, which some of the students have not had the opportunity to finish because school activity was suspended. And so the primary focus has been to get these kids in school, final year students in school, to complete their examination. For the gold track students, it is because they had not completed their tuition or their instruction. So for them to also go and complete. Now, what we are going to do is to use this period, we are less than a month in, to use this period to understudy and understand the dynamics on campus while observing social distancing and all the other things that we are speaking about. And then use that understanding to inform the next step of whether or not it is indeed possible to allow more kids into school after these ones are done with their exams, or to phase it. It is a learning from this point that will inform what we do at the next step. So we don't have fixed timelines now. We are in the first about 3 weeks of this first phase, during which period we can learn and understand the dynamics and then use that to inform the next set of decisions.
And I don't know whether some of these perhaps international experiences also is going to inform or has informed this. For example, in early May, I'm taking this from the independent newspaper in the UK, at least there were fears when they did the reopening of schools in France. 70 cases were reported. We've had cases in Israel as well, South Africa, South Korea. And how are some of these, based on the observation, informing our learning experience?
Yeah, because you could have maybe a teacher or a non-teaching staff or a student who may have picked it up at home and who forms part of this very small cohort coming into the school environment. And there's a risk that that person may pass it on. And that is why you also have to put in place strong screening mechanisms as people come to school on a daily basis. And that's why we've invested in thermometer guns, etc., to ensure that the basic signs and symptoms are being screened, so that if you pick up any such thing, you can quickly isolate and ensure that a proper test is done and that person is given the necessary supportive treatment. The other thing also is that the world has come to an understanding that the wearing of the face mask is a major cut in the transmission rate, because it ensures that persons who are positive and who can transmit do not send out droplets, which other people can pick mostly with their hands, and then as they touch their mouth or their nose or their eyes, pass it on to themselves. And that is why in Ghana, for example, the state is ensuring that we provide these face masks to everybody. In total, about 10 million people in total about 10 million masks or 10 million masks, which we believe can protect the about 3 million plus people who are going back into the various learning institutions to complete and write their examination. And so we are drawing from some of these international lessons and trying to contextualize them locally in putting up our own defense layers.
Okay. I did notice that the president in his previous addresses did indicate, I believe in the 12th address, I'm very sure of it, that for senior high school students who were shifting away from education, were entering the electoral register matters, who are the age of 18, they should be given the opportunity, etc., to go and register. Have we any indication that the pupils at the basic level also have been coerced into this as well?
Well, at basic level, people are at most supposed to be about 15 years. So that will be underage, and they, it's my understanding, will not be in a position to ordinarily register at the basic level. But at the senior high school level, where the final year students are about 18 years, a lot of parents ask the question, so what happens to our kids? Why don't I let them stay at home and register before they go home? And I think the view is that these young ones who are turning 18 should be given an opportunity to register on campuses, and then subsequently they can transfer their votes to wherever they'll be casting their vote. Because you also don't want a scenario where they are leaving campuses and going home with a view to go and register and come back, which increases the risk levels. And so I think the idea is to give them the opportunity to register on campus, and then when it is due for transfer of votes, they can then transfer their votes into their various constituencies.
Now, you have heard the statement by Katie Hammond, the Member of Parliament. What's the position of government on his statement?
I think, first of all, one of the unfortunate things that has happened is a report by some media networks. I did indeed see one on my Joy Online that says that government has double standards on what is happening across our borders. And the report sought to juxtapose what the Honorable Katie Hammond, Member of Parliament for Adansi-Asokwa, who is not a member of government, who is not a spokesperson of government, to juxtapose what he has said with what the government officials who are doing this exercise have actually said. Indeed, as I paid attention to the Honorable Katie Hammond's video clip, the full 4-minute video clip, and I want to encourage you to play the full 4-minute video clip to your audiences, not the edited version. If I heard him well, he says that he is guessing that this must be the reason for the deployment. And then he goes ahead to explain what his guess is. I think you should play it, the full thing to your audiences for them to see if indeed he said that, I guess this is the rationale. First of all, this is not a member of government. He's not the one conducting the exercise. He's questioned by journalists, and then he says he guesses that this is what's happening. And one of the first unfortunate things is this, may I say, narrative around it that the Honorable Katie Hammond has said that Voltarians are not Ghanaians. I mean, Roland, I know you, I know your network. It will be shocking if indeed that is what we all want to play back and say he has said, because what I've listened to doesn't amount to what he has said. He has expressed his personal view about why he guesses the exercise is ongoing. And I think, first of all, in the reportage, we have to be fair to him and put him in his full context. But why is this exercise taking place? When did this exercise start? Where else is this exercise starting? I think that as we are putting out these stories, all of us have a responsibility to tell the full story. As far back as March, since we started closing our borders, the government has been deploying joint security troops in various parts of the country to ensure that the borders are not compromised. You have been privy to the leaders of these security teams telling us how many people they have arrested trying to cross the border here, how many people have crossed through illegal routes and have ended up testing positive for COVID-19. It's an extensively known matter. All of a sudden, the conversation is now getting to a point where everybody is beginning to pretend that we are all not aware of this joint security operation that has gone on from about March till now, other operations like Operation Conquer Fist, etc., and are all now beginning to fall for this, may I say, narrative that has been put out that the Honorable Katie Hammond says that Voltarians are not Ghanaians, and that will be a justification for the deployment of troops in, I think, K2 South also specifically. I think what we need to do is to broaden the conversation. Let's ask ourselves, when did the deployment start? Where have the deployments been taking place? If I've seen a report by Rafiq Salam, I think from WA and some others from other parts of the country, and let's tell the full story so that we don't create a storm in a teacup.
I have had interactions with some members of the Immigration Service and indeed some security personnel who had their colleagues deployed in some of these centers. And they say that, of course, there had been the beefing up of the personnel at the border posts. But in relation to the Aflao and the entry point in the Volta region, these have increased over the last couple of weeks. Is that coincidental, or is it just part of the routine?
So today, for example, the minister responsible for defense will be joining us at a minister's press briefing, I think later this morning, and we'll have an opportunity to, for example, answer all of these questions. But you see, the question you have asked, therefore, is a very fair question. If we start off on that conversation that, yes, it is true that deployments have been going on across the country since March, is there a reason for which maybe on X or Y or Z date, these persons have been deployed at a location? The authority responsible for conducting the exercise then has the duty to provide that answer. And if that answer is not satisfactory, we'll all be the last persons to follow an unsatisfactory answer. But not to do that and to now frame the conversation that the Honorable Katie Hammond says that Voltarians are not Ghanaians is a totally different, distorted conversation from the real one that I'm very happy you are pushing this for. You do notice, for example, that when we started our conversation, we didn't start off by saying, Minister, can you confirm whether indeed it is true that in the last 1 week, troops have been deployed in this particular location? And what is the rationale? That is a fair way to start this conversation. And if we do that, I'm sure that as the Minister of Defense will speak later this morning and explain, the rationalization will be there out and clear. But what I'm suggesting we do not do is to distort this conversation and now say that the Member of Parliament for Dansia Sokwa, who is not a member of government, who does not speak for government, having said in the corridors of Parliament that he guesses that this must be the rationalization, is now the mainstream conversation we are going to have. And I think that we should reject that and focus on that. And to answer your question specifically, the Honorable Dominic Nitiwu will be speaking later today as to when it started and the rationalization behind it. You've seen also some persons put out photos and videos, which are old photos and videos, claiming that people in the certain parts of the country are being brutalized by military persons, etc. And thankfully, it is beginning to come out that some of these videos of the police and the military are old infractions that have been online for a while now. And I think that what we all need to do, I've seen you guys are doing a project on fake news. What we all need to do is to say, this is not the conversation. This rather is a conversation, and can we focus on it and get the answers there? And the Honorable Dominic Nitiwu will help us with those answers later today.
Okay, so the beefing up of the security personnel is routine, not coincidental with a registration that is approaching tomorrow.
You are aware that I have not offered an answer. I have said that the Honorable Dominic Nitiwu will be providing the answers later this morning at the Minister's press briefing. When I've encouraged that is what we focus our attention on. Who is the one doing the exercise? When did he start the exercise? Why is he doing this exercise? That is what we should focus on, and not a distorted conversation of the Honorable Katie Hammond has said that Voltarians are not Ghanaians. I do understand that he's even issued a statement explaining that he has never said that, and encouraging the media and everybody else to play the full 4-minute exchange that he had with the journalist, where he starts off by saying that he guesses that if what they are telling him is true, then he guesses that that would be the rationalization. We can't make that the main argument here. So let's have Dominic Nitiwu behind the podium explain when it started, why it started, the extent of the exercise, and what is sought to be achieved from it.
Comments, and I know that you're not a member of the Electoral Commission, but because you're the Minister for Information, sometimes when we're speaking with you, some of these comments will come up. So this one says, one cannot, I understand for this particular registration exercise, one cannot transfer his or her vote until after a certain period. Can the Honorable Minister explain or clarify this for us? This is in response to the registration of some senior high school students.
So, Roland, thanks for the caveat you put there. I do not speak for the Electoral Commission. It will be good to have them say it themselves at some point in time, because sometimes the messenger can be confused with the message. But Roland, the other thing is that, is it true that in the past, during a registration exercise, you can transfer your vote? I'm not sure that has ever happened in times past. The registration takes place separately, and then prior to the election, persons who want to transfer their votes have an opportunity to transfer. We have a new CI 126. It will be good to speak to the Electoral Commission for them to explain how CI 126 and the laws that govern our next election answer this question of when you can transfer your votes. But as has always been the case, I think the understanding is that first you register, and then after the registration exercise, if you want to transfer your vote, you have an opportunity to transfer your vote somewhere.
Well, moving on, we do know the president will be addressing the nation today. What time is he doing that? Exactly, what time?
The Office of the President will communicate the time for his address to us. The head of state has an obligation at this time that a registration exercise is coming up to encourage Ghanaians to take up their civic duty. And that is what His Excellency the President will be doing later tonight. His office would announce the specific time for that address. But yes, I think we can look forward to that address from the head of state.
Well, as we wind up this conversation, there have been related concerns starting from the MPP primaries, that we don't seem to be implementing on full-face level the Restrictions Act that we have, and then the enforcement of the face mask protocols. And there have been a number of instances from the primaries, and then over the period also, we had just over the weekend the acclamation for the president to be the presidential candidate for the party, the MPP, in the next election. What would you say to that?
So just to put that in context, I am not aware of anybody who has complained of a breach of the restrictions during the acclamation of the president on Saturday. I'm not aware of that. The one I'm aware of are widespread complaints that during the NPP primaries, while it is true that at the point of voting, the preventive and distancing protocols were observed, when the spontaneous jubilations started in some constituencies, some of the voters and delegates and supporters and well-wishers did not observe that. And I think His Excellency the President has had cause to express regret about it and continue, as he does with the general admonitions, to admonish that we should do our very best to comply with it. And when the security agencies have reason to move in to enforce, they should do so to enforce. I have nothing more useful to add to the President's comments.
Well, I have to thank you. The Minister for Information, Kojo Ponkrumah, Member of Parliament for Ofuansi Ayerobi. I'm told that you've been vigorously campaigning after your acclamation. It's been going well.
Well, we haven't started a full campaign. We've been inspecting some projects, and yes, you're right. Thanks to God, it's been going well. We'll do our best on that front.
And I'm told that some of your opponents had not been happy that you'd been fully acclaimed. You went unopposed. So how are you dealing with that as part of the president meeting the candidates who lost and trying to merge the differences for the MPP to have one unified agenda for 2020?
Your information would not be correct, because I did not have any opponents right from the beginning. I was a sole candidate, the only candidate even to have picked forms. So there was no conversation about opponents and whether disqualification and somebody being unhappy about it. In the Ofuansi Ayerobi constituency, thanks to God, we have a very, very, very united front. We're singing from the same hymn sheet. We acknowledge that we've been behind for many decades, and we have an opportunity to, with a united front, speed up the development and progress of our constituency. And so we don't have divided fronts with various opponents. No, I have not had any opponents. Indeed, we all rather work together in pushing the common agenda. But on the broader front, yes, the president has met with the 42 sitting members of parliament who were not successful, and has encouraged them not to abandon ship, but to work vigorously. I was very, very pleased to see a good number of them in parliament, on the floor of parliament as chairpersons of committees, pushing their committees' work, despite the fact that they have lost their primaries. And it is with a united front only that we can ensure that the same resounding victory that we achieved in 2016, we will be able to achieve it. Because, as for example, former President Kufuor has said, if Ghana is going to sustainably be transformed, we will need the MPP administration in power for a long time to complete the transformational agenda. And in all humility, we will do our best and continue to ask for the mandate of the people so to do.
Kojo Ponkrumah, you're in a good mood today. Thank you for the interaction.
Thank you, Roland.
And Kojo Ponkrumah is the Member of Parliament for Ofuansi Ayerobi, Minister for Information, and helping us do great discussions. And he's promised that anytime we call on him, he's free. He will continuously, before the election comes off, that's in December, he will continuously be interacting with us right here on the AM show. It's been a great time, getting some great education, but also getting some clarifications to some of the concerns that have been raised, not only in relation to the pupils returning to the classrooms, those on third years, but also the conversation about the massing up of personnel whether or not, within the precincts of the K2 South area, the Volta region, and the borders we have across our country. Well, we have to take a break, but when we return, we'll bring you up to speed with our latest online documentary. It's titled Psycho, The Observers Are Missing. We'll bring you that next. Stay with us. And we told you about that interaction we're going to have with the producer of our latest outline documentary. And following up from Rachel Kojo-Nyakoso, we decided to delve deeper into this. And, well, we would want to know this because he, like many fishing observers, chose to be Ghana's frontline defenders against an overfishing crisis that is among the worst in the sub-region, West Africa. But it appears the fight has been lost as these observers are either threatened or, in some cases, go missing on fishing trawlers. So, in July 2019, Emmanuel Essien was declared missing at sea without a trace. A year on, his family says they are yet to receive the outcome of the security investigation that so far has started. All these compelling details are in our latest outline documentary. And the producer of that documentary is Nancy Emefa Jiradosi. We want to have that interaction with her. Nancy, good morning to you.
Hi, Roland. Good morning.
You're looking smashing. Now, I know that coming from
a big day, so yes, I need to look the part.
Coming from this interaction and you having been speaking to fishing people, this is a point in time when we have to take a further look at apparently all the things that have been happening in the industry. What should we be looking forward to in this piece you have?
Well, in 2014, the European Union warned Ghana that it was going to put a ban on fishing activities and also exports of our fish, to the European Union. That was in 2015. Then government decided that they needed to have some reforms and relaunch everything to ensure that the illegal fishing goes down. And so as part of that, there was some amount of money from the World Bank to place fishing observers on their trawlers. So, well, what they're supposed to do essentially is to record illegal things that is happening on the fishing trawlers. So you take down notes. If they sell fish at sea, you take them down. If they are, fishing the pelagic, that's a small fish, which is illegal, you tend to record all of that and then come back and then give it to the Fisheries Commission, and then the police will continue investigations. But Roland, you'll be interested to know that even though we have fishing observers on the trawlers, the illegalities are still ongoing. And some of the fishing observers who try to be different are either sometimes threatened, in some cases they are murdered, in some cases they go missing. And there are some reports from 2017 that has established that fishing observers in Africa, even around the world, sometimes are in serious or in grievous danger because of the job that they're supposed to be doing. And so in this documentary, they are really going to be delving into how Emmanuel Essien, a fishing observer last year, mysteriously disappeared on Magazine 15. Up till now, I spoke to the family yesterday, and they tell me that they are yet to receive any official document from the Fisheries Commission telling them what exactly happened, except to say that some of the sailors and some of the people on the vessels were arrested, but as of now, nothing.
Well, we have to call for the excerpt. And when we come back, we'll ask a question or two about what are some of the details so far you found out following this investigations you did.
A research conducted by EFG in 2017 revealed that approximately 100,000 tons of fish were landed through cycle, out of the total 167,000. What this means is that just 40% of catches were landed legally and reported to the Fisheries Commission, despite observers being present on a number of vessels. But one of such observers who did his job diligently was Emmanuel Essien. Essien, prior to this job, had been unemployed for over a year. His brother remembers how elated he was when he got the chance to serve as an eye on Ghana's sea.
Me want to me say, Puejuma dana kuma so anase Juma say Debbie. No Pejuma. No tell me say when you Juma, and I so obey to me, and also obey to me. Yes, he was happy. So when you Juma, na there was so come, and I so Juma no. Oh, tell no what no. Oh, Jide so ko ene Juma. Nti say no, nti na adwokra na oba me ogidi kra na ade chia okoi.
So onye Juma the following day na no ko.
Baby. Onye Juma to me say obo mama ne no na me fi say bia. Nti da bi me ono till me anadwo na na me pace kama na nti o store en Sunday. Me so ba me be Friday be in 3 days be na.
But his confidence in excelling in the new job was short-lived. Emmanuel left home on the 30th of June after he had been given a short notice from his bosses at the Fisheries Commission to be on board Megxin 15 trawler. But just 6 days after he left his wife and 2 children, they got a call that was going to change their lives forever.
30th July na on the 5th July na 30th June. On the 5th July, I friend say, "Amu, I want you no so." Obi a me na di nkomo yi na ba nse na mu na amu mai ne company ni number and a friend I'm director bi or friend Mr. Ni. The friend na o say am pa mo activities and I must invest on the back. I must invest on the back into young train.
This news came in as a shock to not only the family, but the president of the Trawlers Association, Dr. Eni, who first received the news.
Well, I was the first, or one of the first people who had a message that something has happened on the vessel. And so my first response is, call the police, call the Fisheries Commission, and the owner of the vessel did just that. In fact, I spent about 4 or 5 hours at the port when the vessel arrived, because what we then did was to ask the vessel to come, because if you can't find the observer, then the most rational thing to do is to bring the vessel. And before the vessel arrived, I think about 3, 4, 5 hours, the police had been notified, the Fisheries Commission had been notified, the vessel berthed, the police, the BNI, and all other agencies, security agencies at the port went on the vessel, collected, materials that they needed to use for their investigation. They picked all the sailors, they took statement from them. At the point we had to appear before the Maritime Authority. And as far as I'm concerned, as far as industry is concerned, we have followed due process.
And Nancy, if we take a look at what you found out deeper, how difficult in what difficulty really do we find ourselves? Or in what difficult state do we find the industry?
Roland, it's really hard to even say, because listening to fishermen, listening to the Trawlers Association, I've worked with some NGOs, AFJ, I've worked with some of the fisheries NGOs, and listening to other fishing observers. Sometimes I don't want to believe that there's no hope, but it's quite difficult, because the fishing observers were supposed to be that eye on the sea, that eye that, watches everything. But with my interaction with one of the fishing observers, which you would want to watch later at 8:30 p.m. today, he tells me about how difficult their job is. So he says that per their reports, the Navy are supposed to come around whilst they're on sea at least every week. But they can go 3 months and the Navy will come only once. And so 1, their lives are in danger. 2, the fishing observers sometimes have to turn a blind eye and take money. They are receiving bribes from the fishing trawlers because according to them, sometimes they are threatened and asked that if you don't take this money, this is what's going to happen to you. Well, I spoke to the Trawlers Association as an executive member, Mr. Enning, who said that yes, he has seen it happen before. So the question is, anytime fishing observers come back with these details, what actions are taken by government? How are we making sure that the work that the fishing observers are doing are even enough? Meanwhile, Professor Youngson with the University of Cape Coast, one of the fisheries experts, tells me that it is actually wrong. He feels that we are just endangering the lives of these fishing observers. So what it means is that Ghana, we need to come up with better ways of dealing with the problem, because at the stance, the Trawlers Association don't believe that cycle in its sense actually is a bad thing. And so this whole concept of cycle and illegal fishing must be relooked at, and then you can take it from there.
Well, and when is this airing?
Well, it's airing today. It's going to be in 2 parts. And so the first part ends today at 8:30 p.m. right after Joy News Prime. And also we'll get the repeat of it tomorrow at 6:30. And so, and then the next week, the same thing. And so please make sure that you catch it tonight at 8:30. If you miss, you can have a look at it tomorrow at 6:30 p.m.
Well, Nancy Amafajradosi. And that's a good one. Painstaking investigations. And look, you have to stick and stay. We all consume fish. But when details of what are revealed in a documentary gives us an indication that all is not well, this is where we have to make sure we stay glued to our screens and watch Joy News this evening. 8:30 p.m. Nancy Amafajradosi. Good work there. And
yeah, absolutely.
You know, the Volta region, especially the southern side, is bordering the sea. So some of these things we need to take a proper look
so
at.
make a day 8:30. Well, a few things happening this morning. There was a hint yesterday that the president will be addressing the nation ahead of the voter registration exercise. We keep an eye on that. Also happening is the Defense Minister, Dominic Nitiwo, who will be addressing the press and be addressing the nation. In effect, that was revealed to you in that conversation with Information Minister Kojo Ponkroma. So these two things we're looking at. If it gets underway, of course, you see it and hear it first here on Joy News. But for now, thanks for your company. We will see you tomorrow, God willing. We've got more news and analysis coming up on News Desk at 10 a.m. Please make a date.